Welcome back, students, to another history class. Today we'll be seeing a lesson from Standard 9th Political Science, lesson number 3, India's Defense System. In the last chapter, we studied India's foreign policy. We have now understood that the primary national interest of a country includes defense from foreign aggression and internal unrest and keeping the borders safe. For this, every nation creates a defense system at the national level. India has also created such a system. In today's chapter, we are going to understand the nature and study the challenges it faces. So let us begin with the lesson, India's Defense System. Today we will be looking at a few points, namely, what is national security, ways to safeguard national security, and India's security system. Let us begin with the lesson and try to understand the meaning of the term national security. The international system is made up of sovereign nations. That is, the entire world that we live in is made up of many independent countries. Even if these countries cooperate with each other, sometimes there are conflicts or disputes between these sovereign nations. Let us look at the reasons for disputes or conflicts between various nations of the world. The first reason is the international boundaries. There have been various wars between India and Pakistan over the Jammu and Kashmir land. Similarly, there have been various wars between China, India and Bhutan over the Doklam land. Another reason for disputes between nations has also been water sharing. Afghanistan and Iran have fought over the Helmand River. Similarly, Turkey, Syria and Iraq have also fought over the Euphrates or the Tigris rivers. Some other reasons for conflicts could be not following the terms of international treaties, constantly competing against each other, and an influx or an increase in refugees from neighboring countries. Whenever such conflict of interest arise or such problems arise between nations, it should be resolved by compromises and discussions, that is, through peaceful meetings and interventions. But when such efforts like compromises, discussions, peaceful meetings and interventions are not enough to resolve the conflict, a nation may even think of war. When a nation attacks another nation and challenges the sovereignty of the latter, it endangers the security of the nation. Such challenges are created due to the military power of aggressive nations. In any situation, a nation's first duty is to keep its defense systems well prepared and ready. This is called as national security. Let us look at some examples of complementary and contradictory national interests in the context of India and our neighboring nations. Now, what do we mean by complementary national interests? It means those areas of interest that we share with our neighbors on which we agree. We are happily agreeing, we both have decided on it. Whereas contradictory national interest means those areas or those points on which we do not agree. We are continuing the dispute. There is a problem in regarding those particular points. That is what we are going to see here. Now let us look at our first neighbor, which is Pakistan. The areas where we share complementary national interest are, first, the Indus War Treaty 1960. According to this treaty, The water from the Sindhu, Chenab, and the Jhelum rivers will be used by Pakistan, while the waters from the Satluj, Ravi, and the Beas river will be used by India. However, there are a few areas on which we do not agree, that is, the terrorist activities which have been sponsored by Pakistan is always an area where India and Pakistan do not agree. Similarly, the Pakistan occupied Kashmir region is also a major cause of dispute. Let us look at the second country, China. India and China have agreed on the following points. China had supplied nuclear fuel for the 1993 Tarapur nuclear project. Relations in the field of nuclear technology and space technology are also strengthening. However, India and China dispute over the borderlands still continue, as also China's claim on Ladakh still continues, and these two are issues of contradictory national interest which we have with China. Let us now look at a third country, that is Bangladesh. As per the 1997 Ganges Water Treaty, India will release a certain amount of water to Bangladesh from the Farakka barrage. Both the nations have taken an initiative on resolution of water sharing issues for large rivers like the Teesta rivers. These are the areas which we agree with Bangladesh. Let us look at the contradictory national interests. The conflict about deciding the maritime borders between India and Bangladesh remains till now, and as also the conflict regarding the New Moor Island still continues. Let us proceed with our lesson. There are different ways to safeguard the national security. First, national security is closely connected with geography because national security is more likely to be endangered by nations who are geographically closer. For example, any country or countries which are in the surrounding of a particular nation are likely to pose as a threat to the security. So, a nation must assess the threat to its geographical boundaries and the source of that threat. That is, a nation must be able to find out the danger to its boundaries and which country or which person is the source of that particular danger or threat. For example, the case of India. Now, India has got many countries around its boundary. India is covered or surrounded by many countries around its boundaries. So, India must check and assess from which country is India able to, or India may get threatened, or there is a danger from which particular country, and accordingly India should take precautions. Second point, in order to keep this threat at bay, or that means in order to keep this danger in control, any nation must increase its military might. Nowadays, we have to use modern technology, and with the help of modern technology, we can predict the threat. That is, before the danger actually happens, we are able to predict, or there is a likelihood that where any kind of danger is likely to happen. And according to that, we also have to build a weapon system and modernize and update the defense forces. The third step, resolving conflict by taking recourse to war in order to safeguard the national security brings internal peace into danger. That is, if we take recourse to war, or if we start a war with another country to resolve a problem, then it also endangers our own country's peace. Hence, some nations try to get the support of other nations to manage the threat to their national security. Some countries may try to take the help of other countries and thereby show that their country is more powerful against another one small country. So, these are the ways by which a country tries to show its superiority and safeguard the national security. Think and suggest. All countries are not at par with respect to military might. That means all the countries do not have the same level of military preparedness. Some, some are very strong in military power, some are less stronger. In such a situation, what needs to be done to implement a policy of arms control? That means, then in what manner should the countries produce arms, or what kind of policy should the countries follow regarding arms control? Answer: in order to implement a policy of arms control on an international level, the following things need to be done. First, efforts should be made to prevent the terrorists from getting access to weapons. So, weapons should not easily be available. Second, peaceful means of dispute resolution, like conducting a political dialogue with the opposite nation, should be implemented. That is, the first way of dealing with any problem is we should try to hold discussions and peaceful ways of talking or meetings to try and solve the problem. Third point, nuclear energy must be used only for economic development rather than constructing weapons for military purpose. So here again, we must observe caution. We must control ourselves that we use the nuclear energy only for economic development and not for producing the military weapons. Care should also be taken to ensure that no tensions are developed in the border regions. So there should be sufficient amount of care taken that in the border regions there are no clashes or any kind of problems happening. All these in all these ways we will be able to control the arms. Do you agree? Nations enter into arms races with others in an effort to increase their military might. Arms race leads to further increase in the sense of insecurity. This sense of insecurity further increases the threats to national security. In order to avoid these dangers, we need arms control, not an arms race. So, whether we agree or not is the question. Answer: yes, I agree. The reasons are: arms race reduces the mutual trust and hurts the feeling of fraternity between the nations. Between any two countries, if they have to be friendly, then there has to be a control in the production of arms. If although we are friends, yet we keep on producing more and more weapons, the other country may feel threatened and afraid of ours, and hence the trust will reduce. Second, also production of nuclear weapons is very expensive and hence stresses the financial resources of the country. This can adversely affect the growth of its economy. In any country, we have to see that the economy is growing and developing, but for nuclear weapons production we need huge amounts of money. So if more amount of money is used for producing the nuclear weapons, then very less amount is left for the economic development. Hence, countries should also take care of this. Third, the destruction caused by the use of nuclear weapons in the Second World War has a disastrous effect over the minds of people even today. Even today, the scars that have been led by the war cannot be forgotten or have not left us. We still remember the difficult times and the dangerous times that were there during the Second World War, and hence it is wiser that use of nuclear weapons should be conservative. The nuclear weapons should be conservatively used. In order to avoid the repetition of huge economic loss and loss of life caused by the use of nuclear weapons in the Second World War, we need arms control, not an arms race. So, conservation of arms or using it with a great amount of control is the only way in which we can continue the economic growth of a country. At the same time, do not put a strain on the financial resources, and hence this is how we can assure arms control and not an arms race. India's security system. India's security system includes the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, the three forces that defend the country. The Ministry of Defence of India controls all these three forces. Let us look at the three forces in detail. Let us look at the first defense system, which is the Indian Army. The Indian Army has the responsibility of protecting the geographical borders. The Indian Army is very big. In fact, it is the world's seventh largest army. The chief of the army is called as the general. The current chief of the Indian Army is General Manoj Mukund Naravne. The second defense system is the Indian Navy. The Indian Navy protects the coastline of India. India has a large coastline with water on three sides, and hence it is a big job to protect the coastline of India. The chief of the Navy is called as the Admiral, and currently we have Admiral Karambir Singh, who is the leading the Indian Navy. The third in the security system of India is the Indian Air Force. The Indian Air Force is in charge of protecting India's airspace. The chief of the Indian Air Force is called as the Air Chief Marshal. The current Air Chief Marshal is Rakesh Kumar Singh Bhadoria. Let's find out and understand more. What is a military regime? A regime wherein the entire control of the nation is in the hands of the military officials is called as a military regime. Second, does democracy exist in such regimes? No. Democracy does not exist in such regimes, as they do not have the representatives elected by the people, and hence the laws passed in such regimes are not in favor of the citizens. That is why we cannot say that democracy exists in such regimes. These three chiefs are appointed by the President of India. The President of India is the supreme commander of the defense forces. That is, he is the most supreme person of all the three defense forces together. The defense forces cannot take any decisions about war or peace without the consent or approval of the President, because the President represents the civil power, that is the people's power, as he is indirectly elected by the people. In a democracy, civil leadership, that is leadership of the people, is considered superior to military might. And since President is the leader of the people, as he is indirectly elected by the people, hence his power is superior to all military leadership. Many measures are taken so that all these three defense forces are adequately modernized. For this modernization, many training institutes have also been set up in our country to train the personnel of all ranks of our defense forces so that they can perform their task competently. For example, the National Defense Academy, the NDA, is at Pune, and the National Defense College, the NDC, at Delhi, provide modernized training techniques to the different task forces. Let us do a quick recap of the lesson. Today we saw as to what is national security, that is, We saw the meaning of national security, where we find that when conflicts arise between nations and when these conflicts cannot be resolved, one nation tries to threaten the security and the sovereignty of another nation, and when such a situation arises, the nation's first duty is to safeguard or protect its country, and this is what is known as national security. Then we also saw the ways to safeguard national security. That is, first a nation has to assess the threat that it has from the surrounding countries, and then in order to control or in order to fight such a threat, it has to build weapons with various technologies, and sometimes it also has to take help of other nations to fight or to solve the problems that it has. So in this chapter, in this video, we have seen this part of the lesson. We will be looking at the other part in the next module. Let us look at a few evaluation questions. First, choose the right option and rewrite the sentence. The Dash of India is the Commander in Chief of all the defense forces. Options are Prime Minister, President, Defense Minister, Governor. The correct answer is the President of India is the Commander in Chief of all the defense forces. The second question is, explain with reasons whether the following statement is true or false. First, every nation creates a strong security system for itself. Well, this statement is a true statement, and for the reasons as to why a nation creates a strong security system, you can find the answer on page 72 of your textbook, where they are discussing about what is national security. From that part you can see and you can write this answer. Let us come to the next question, which is do as directed. And here a few blanks are given about the security forces. So you can see, you can refer to the slides, you can refer to this textbook, children, and you can fill this particular table. With this we come to an end of the lesson. I hope you have understood the video and the lesson. We will be back with another module of the same lesson, where we will be doing the further part of the lesson. Thank you, children, and happy learning.